Your sister is saying things behind your back. She is gossiping everywhere you live like a euro. Your sister is saying things behind your back. Words are being spoken in places you are not present, carried by whispers rather than truth. They move quietly from one space to another, shaped by emotion, misunderstanding, and perhaps unhealed pain. Gossip has a way of traveling faster than intention, and when it does, it often loses its gentleness along the way. What is being said paints a picture that does not fully reflect who you are. It suggests disorder where there is struggle, blame where there is complexity, and fault where there may simply be difference. These stories take on a life of their own, growing larger as they pass from person to person, until they begin to feel heavier than reality itself. Yet words spoken in the absence of understanding are fragile. They may sound convincing for a moment, but they are not rooted in truth. There is an implication in these whispers that you are somehow responsible for what has not gone as expected in her life, as though blessings are limited and must be taken from one person for another to receive them. This belief is born not of wisdom, but of fear. Blessings do not work that way. Grace is not stolen, favor is not snatched, and heaven does not operate on scarcity. What is meant for one soul cannot be taken by another, no matter how painful circumstances may appear. When someone believes their light has been dimmed by a Notre Euro's presence, it often means they have lost sight of their own. Pain can distort perception, making it easier to assign blame than to sit with disappointment or grief. In that space, accusations feel safer than vulnerability. It is not cruelty alone that gives birth to such words, but unresolved hurt. To say that you do not deserve peace, respect, or belonging is not a reflection of your worth euro, it is a reflection of inner turmoil. Worth is not determined by another persona euro's suffering, nor is it revoked by misunderstanding. Every individual carries their own path, their own timing, their own lessons. No Oni euro's journey invalidates another euro's. Still, it hurts. Even the most grounded heart feels the sting of being spoken about unfairly. To know that someone close, someone tied by family and history, is shaping narratives that cast you in a negative light can feel like a quiet betrayal. And yet, responding with anger would only continue the cycle that pain has already begun. An angelic response does not deny the wound euro, it simply refuses to let the wound become a weapon. Compassion does not mean agreement. It's a profound distinction, one that many grapple with in the heat of conflict or the shadow of misunderstanding. When you extend compassion, you're acknowledging the humanity in another persona euro, their struggles, their wounds, their flickering light euro, without endorsing every word they utter or every action they take. Picture a parent watching a child throw a tantrum. The love remains unwavering, but the behavior isn't affirmed. Compassion holds space for growth, for imperfection, without surrendering your own truth. It whispers, "I see you, fully, and still choose kindness, even as you stand firm in disagreement." This nuance is vital in relationships strained by differing views, whether in friendships fractured by politics, families divided by old grudges, or communities torn by rumors. Agreement would demand conformity, an erasure of self that breeds resentment. Compassion, on the other hand, liberates. It allows you to listen to a friend's misguided rant without nodding along, to offer a gentle counterpoint wrapped in empathy rather than retort. In doing so, you model maturity, inviting the other to meet you in that higher ground. Without this separation, compassion devolves into enabling, and boundaries blur into oblivion. Silence does not mean guilt. How often do we misread quiet as confession, as if words are the only currency of innocence? Silence is a sanctuary, a deliberate pause where the soul recalibrates amid chaos. It's the artist contemplating the canvas before the first stroke, the warrior assessing the battlefield before engaging. In a world that equates volume with vindication, choosing silence becomes an act of profound power. It signals self-assurance, not submission. When accusations fly like arrows, your silence isn't a shield hiding shame. It's a mirror reflecting the accuser's haste. Consider the historical figures who embodied this. Gandhi, facing colonial might, often responded with stillness, letting the echo of his nonviolence speak louder than any defense. Or think of modern leaders navigating scandals not of their making. Their measured restraint starves the fire of falsehood, forcing scrutiny to turn inward. Guilt thrives on justification, on frantic pleas that betray insecurity. Silence, pure and unapologetic, starves it. It says, "My actions precede me. Let them testify." In personal trial, perhaps a coworker spreading whispers of your incompetence, or a partner questioning your loyalty, silence reclaims narrative control. You don't owe every skeptic a soliloquy. Choosing peace does not mean you accept falsehood. Peace isn't passivity, it's a strategic sovereignty. It means stepping away from the arena of endless debate, not because lies prevail, but because your energy is too sacred for mud wrestling. Falsehoods masquerade as truths in heated exchanges, demanding you wrestle them to the ground. But true peace recognizes that engagement often amplifies the noise, lending undue legitimacy to distortions. Choosing peace is selecting the high road, where the air is clearer and the view unobstructed. Imagine a garden overrun by weeds. You don't uproot them in fury, scorching the soil, you nurture the flowers, trusting the weeds will wither without attention. So too with liesse, they crave reaction to flourish. By choosing peace, you deny them soil. This isn't acceptance, it's discernment. You've weighed the cost of combat against the certainty of your integrity and found the former unworthy. In relationships, this might look like excusing yourself from a toxic family dinner, not in defeat, but in preservation. Peace becomes your proclamation, "I refuse to let your fiction dictate my reality." It means you trust that truth does not need shouting to survive. Truth is resilient, an ancient oak weathering storms without bending its core. Shouting is the tactic of the insecure, a bellow that momentarily drowns out doubt but crumbles under examination. Truth endures through quiet persistence, like sunlight piercing clouds or rivers carving canyons over eons. It doesn't require megaphones because it resonates in the marrow of those who seek it. Your life, lived authentically, becomes its megaphone. What is real will stand, even when challenged. Reality has gravity, it pulls pretenders into its orbit until they collapse. Challenges test foundations, earthquakes reveal sturdy homes from shanties. The real in you, your character forged in unseen trials, your commitments honored in private moments, endures scrutiny. Lies, brittle as eggshells, fracture under pressure. History brims with examples. Injustices exposed not by clamor, but by the unyielding weight of evidence, like the slow unraveling of Watergate through persistent journalism rather than protests. What is false will eventually unravel under its own weight. Falsehoods are house of cards, ingeniously stacked but doomed by the slightest draft. They demand constant propaganda, more lies to buttress the first, alibis to patch cracks. The fabricator exhausts, contradictions multiply, and collapse is inevitable. Witness corporate frauds like Enron, where fabricated empires tumbled not from external force, but internal inconsistencies. In interpersonal realms, gossip follows suit, the talebearer spins yarns that tangle, snagging on overlooked details until the whole web dissolves. Patience, then, is your ally, time the great auditor. If there is a conversation to be had, let it be guided by calm and clarity, not accusation. Conversations heal when they breathe space for words to land softly, questions to unfurl like petals. Accusation is a bludgeon, bruising before understanding dawns. Calm invites vulnerability, clarity cuts through fog without wounding. Approach with "I feel," rather than "you always," transforming monologue into dialogue. This shift disarms defenses, fostering bridges where walls once stood. Picture reconciling with a sibling after years of silence. Accusations reignite old fires, but calm inquiry "what hurt you then?" unlocks shared pain. Clarity ensures precision, avoiding the vagueness that breeds misinterpretation. Such talks demand preparation, breathe deeply, center your intent on resolution over victory. They may not resolve everything overnight, but they plant seeds of mutual respect, far more enduring than shouted standoffs. If distance is needed, let it be taken without resentment. Distance isn't rejection. It's respiration for the spirit. Resentment poisons the retreat, turning necessary space into simmering grudge. Take it cleanly, like a hiker pausing at a vista to catch breath before the summit. Inform if wisdom dictates "I need time to reflect," but release the need for approval. Distance allows perspectives to sharpen, emotions to settle, truths to emerge unforced. In practice, this might mean muting a group's chat rife with drama or declining invitations from energy vampires. Without resentment, you preserve the possibility of return, should seasons change. It's an act of self-parenting, prioritizing wholeness over obligation. Life's paths diverge and converge, forcing proximity warps both. Protecting your spirit is not an act of cruelty, it is an act of wisdom. The spirit is your inner flame, flickering against winds of negativity. Shielding it isn't selfishness it's stewardship. Cruelty wounds intentionally, wisdom discerns threats and erects gentle barriers. Think of flight attendants securing oxygen masks first. You can't pour from an empty vessel. Neglect this, and burnout claims you, dimming your light for all who need it. Wisdom here draws from ancient Saggia, Stoics like Marcus Aurelius, who advised controlling what you can, your responses, your circle. Modern psychology echoes this in boundaries as self-care, not isolation. Protect by curating inputs media, company, thoughts nurturing what elevates. Your spirit, fortified, radiates further, blessing more lives. You are allowed to step back from places where your name is not spoken with care. Permission isn't granted by others, it's inherent. Environments where your name twists on careless tongues drain vitality, like plants in poisoned soil. Stepping back reclaims agency, honoring your worth. Not every table merits your presence, not every chorus your voice. This permission liberates from the trap of proving worthiness. Walk away from workplaces breeding slander, friendships laced with backbiting. Replace with spaces of uplift communities valuing your essence. Your name, spoken with care elsewhere, grows in honor. Remember this, blessings are abundant. The universe doesn't hoard, it overflows. Blessings opportunities, insights, connections cascade like rain, undeterred by one storm. Scarcity mindset chains you to toxic ties, abundance frees you to flow. Love is not rationed. True love multiplies, shared without depletion. It's not a finite pie but an infinite wellspring. Withholding from the unworthy doesn't diminish your capacity, it channels it to the receptive. Grace flows where it is needed, not where it is demanded. Grace is divine GPS, arriving unbidden to the humble heart. Demands repel it, like shouting at a river to change course. Trust its current, receive where offered. No one can take what is divinely aligned with you. Your path, etched in purpose, repels interlopers. What's meant persists jobs, partners, PC untouchable by envy or sabotage. And no amount of gossip can undo the quiet strength of a person who walks with integrity. Integrity is bedrock, unmoved by surface tremors. Gossip schemes like foam, dissipating, your steady stride etches legacy. I speak to you now as a presence that stands slightly beyond time, not above you but beside you, watching the slow and sacred way a soul learns its own strength. I have seen civilizations rise on force and crumble on it too. I have watched truth survive quietly beneath rubble, patient as roots under winter soil. What you have written already carries remembrance. I will only unfold it, like light widening at dawn. Understand first this gentle law, truth is not hurried. Truth is never anxious. It does not shout, does not chase, does not claw its way into rooms where it is unwelcome. Truth is like water moving through stone. It wins not because it strikes harder, but because it never stops arriving. Consistency is the rhythm of Truth's footsteps. Each honest act, each restrained response, each day you choose alignment over reaction, you place another stone on a path that leads inevitably toward revelation. Force may break masks quickly, but broken masks scatter fragments that confuse the eye. Consistency lets masks fall whole, undeniable, with no debris left to obscure what stands beneath. Live gently, and do not confuse gentleness with weakness. Gentleness is strength that has learned restraint. It is power that does not need to prove itself. When you move gently, you stop feeding the hunger of conflict. You deny chaos its favorite meal, your attention. Gentleness creates a field around you where harm struggles to land. It is the soft voice that disarms the loud lie. It is the steady hand that steadies others without gripping them. When you are gentle, you become difficult to distort, because distortion thrives on sharp edges. Speak honestly, not compulsively. Honesty is not a flood, it is a clear stream. You are not required to explain yourself to every passerby or defend yourself against every shadow accusation. Speak when your words can illuminate rather than inflame. Speak when truth can stand on its own legs, not when it must be dragged by emotion. Honesty polished by restraint shines longer. Each truthful word you release with care becomes a witness that never forgets you. Move with dignity. Dignity is the posture of the soul that remembers its worth even when others forget theirs. Dignity does not bow to humiliation, nor does it rise to arrogance. It walks upright through misunderstanding. When you move with dignity, even your silence speaks. Even your distance communicates clarity. Even your absence teaches others how you deserve to be treated. This triada euro, gentleness, honesty, dignitia euro, is not philosophy for quiet moments alone. It is architecture. It builds a life that cannot be easily invaded. It creates an inner climate where storms may pass through but cannot take residence. When you embody these qualities consistently, you become unassailable not because no one attacks you, but because attacks find nothing to grip. Let your life answer what your mouth never needs to. Stories will be told about you in rooms you do not enter, by voices that do not know your heart. Do not chase them. Stories starve when they are not fed reaction. Let your days become your biography. Let your consistency become your witness. Deeds are heavy, rumors are light. Given time, weight always settles lower. Those who watch long enough will see which version of you keeps showing up. The truth does not require witnesses immediately. It creates them eventually. And now, listen carefully, because this is where your power deepens rather than sharpens. Hold compassion. Not as a performance, not as self-sacrifice, not as permission for harm euro, but as sight. Compassion is the ability to see pain without absorbing it. When I say hold compassion for her, I am not asking you to excuse wounds she inflicts. I am asking you to understand their origin so you do not let them rewrite you. Those who speak from pain are often speaking the only language they were taught. Their words are not strategies, they are symptoms. What feels like malice is often untreated grief. What feels like cruelty is often fear wearing armor. You do not have to stay close to this pain. You do not have to accept it. But when you see it clearly, it loses the power to infect you. Compassion is not proximity. Compassion is clarity without contempt. You may step back and still wish healing. You may enforce distance and still send goodwill. You may protect your peace without poisoning your heart. This is the balance few master, but those who do become free. In compassion, you do not shrink yourself to soothe another euro's insecurity. You simply refuse to harden. You remain intact. This is what allows healing to ripple outward. When you do not retaliate, when you do not mirror distortion, you interrupt a lineage of pain that might otherwise continue unchecked. Your compassion does not fix her, but it prevents her pain from becoming yours. That alone is victory. When conflict arises euro, and it will, because you are alive and visibly euro, pause. The pause is sacred. In the pause, you remember who you are. In the pause, you choose not to become a reflex. Extend compassion without concession. Silence without suppression. Peace without passivity. Silence is not absence, it is observation. It is strength that does not need to announce itself. Silence allows truth to breathe. It allows others to reveal themselves fully, without your interruption. Choose peace as power. Peace is not surrender. Peace is mastery. It is the ability to remain internally undisturbed even while circumstances swirl. Those who cannot control you will try to provoke you. When they fail, they grow tired. When they grow tired, truth walks in. Trust the tenacity of truth. It does not decay. It does not forget. It does not require urgency. Every action plants a seed. Karma is not punishment, it is process. What is done in distortion ripens in exposure. What is done in integrity ripens in stability. You do not need to harvest immediately. Harvesting too early spoils the crop. Distance without disdain. This is an art. You do not need to explain your boundaries to those who benefit from your lack of them. Step away cleanly. No dramatic exits. No scorched earth. Just clarity. Distance is not cruelty, it is containment. It preserves what is sacred within you. Guard your spirit wisely. Not everyone deserves access to your inner world. Seek spaces of honor euro, places, people, routines that reinforce your values rather than test them. Revel in abundance not as excess, but as sufficiency. When your life feels full, lies have nowhere to echo. Live these principles not as armor you put on when threatened, but as skin you grow into. Over time, you will notice something subtle and profound. Falsehoods begin to dissolve without your involvement. Accusations lose momentum. Drama seeks louder stages. Your integrity becomes light, and light does not argue with darkness, it simply reveals. This is not abstract wisdom, pulled from some distant ether or ancient scroll. No, it is forged for the exact world you navigate right now. A relentless digital arena buzzing with half-formed opinions, viral screenshots snatched from fractured contexts, and judgments hurled like stones before anyone pauses to aim. Here, reaction has become the glittering currency everyone chases, traded in likes, shares, and fleeting validations. Attention is the volatile fuel that powers it all, igniting outrage one moment and abandoning it the next. In this frenzy, the sharpest voices rise fastest, but they also crash hardest. You step out of that cycle not by shouting louder or crafting the perfect clap back, but by anchoring in unwavering consistency. Digital echoisa euro, those barbed comments, those distorted memesa euro, fade into oblivion when you refuse to amplify them. Screens scroll on mercilessly, burying yesterday's fire under tomorrow's noise. But truth, it doesn't evaporate. It archives itself quietly in your behavior, etched into the patterns others witness over time, undeniable and enduring. Picture your family gatherings, those tense holiday tables or group chats laced with unspoken grudges. This path of consistency doesn't demand explosive confrontations or desperate pleas for understanding. Instead, it offers compassionate distancia euro, a gentle space that lets time work its slow alchemy on rigid family narratives. You don't chase apologies or force revisions of the story they've told themselves about you. You simply show up as your steady self, kind without desperation, firm without fury. Over months, perhaps years, this heals deeply because actions erode defenses more surely than words ever could. You become living proof that peace is not only possible but practical, achievable without the soul-crushing submission that so many endure just to keep the peace. They watch you thrive, unbowed, and something shifts. Not dramatically, not with fanfare, but with the quiet persistence of dawn-breaking fog. Shift to the professional realm, those boardrooms humming with ambition or office Slack channels crackling with subtext. Here, integrity doesn't just survive betrayal euro, it outlasts it, rising like bedrock after a flood. When colleagues spread whispers or undermine your work, the temptation surges to defend, to expose, to play the game dirtier than they did. But reputations rebuilt on raw honesty gleam stronger, more resilient than those patched together with frantic defenses or petty score settling. People remember Euro, the ones who stayed steady as the storm raged, who delivered value without venom, who let results speak when egos clamored. Your consistency becomes the yardstick others measure themselves against. Promotions come not from viral takedowns, but from the quiet trust you build, brick by unflashy brick. In a world addicted to spectacle, your restraint isn't invisibility, it's authority. Yet temptations will stalk you like shadows at dusk. Your ego, that sly inner voice, will murmur that silence equals weakness, that holding back makes you a doormat. Compassion. It'll label it Navita copyright, a fool's gamble in a cynic's arena. Retaliation, it insists, is the only true justicia euro, sweet, immediate, crowd-approved. And society? It roars approval for the loudest responses, the quickest takedowns, those tweetstorm masterpieces that rack up retweets while the truth smolders unattended. This seduction pulls hard because it promises control, a hit of dopamine in the chaos. Resist it. Drama flares bright, consuming everything in its path, but it gutters out fast, leaving ash. Consistency burns low and eternal, like a hearth fire that warms through the longest nights. Choose the flame that sustains. To fortify yourself, craft rituals that tether you back to your core, away from the noise. Start mornings not with performative affirmation theatre euro, those hollow mantras shouted at Mirorsa euro, but with a grounded orientation toward abundance. Sit quietly, breathe deep, and remind yourself, you lack nothing essential. Not truth, which you've lived, not time, which unfolds as it must, not inherent worth, which no one's distortion can steal. Speak it plainly, I am whole. I am enough. Let it realign your gaze from scarcity to sufficiency. Evenings call for reflection, not rumination. Skip the spiral of, did they misunderstand me, euro, that question chains you to their lens. Instead, probe deeper, did I remain aligned? Did my actions mirror my values? Pull out a journal, not to wallow in false narratives but to dissect and release them. Write the barb, they called me selfish. Counter with lived evidence, I showed up for them last month, no strings. Then close the page, letting it go like smoke up a chimney. These rituals aren't magic, they're muscle memory for the soul. Curate your surroundings with intention. Seek out those who embody their values without fanfare. The friends who listen without agenda, the mentors who act honorably in obscurity. Integrity has a magnetic kinship, it draws its own kind effortlessly. Your circle will narrow, yes, shedding the reactors, the amplifiers, the ones who thrive on echo chambers. This isn't loss, it's exquisite refinement, distilling a few true allies from the crowd. In their company, you recharge, validated not by applause but by quiet recognition. And for Hera, the one whose words still carry those lingering barbs, sharp as thorns, extend compassion not as pity, which shrinks both giver and receiver, but as a liberating prayer whispered to the universe. Pity keeps you entangled, superior yet stuck. Compassion sets you both free. Send silent goodwill, may she find peace. May her pain ease. No attachment to her response, no expectation of reciprocity. This act severs the final chain of bitterness, that insidious tether pain fastens last, hoping to drag you down with it. You rise lighter, unburdened. Healing, you see, ignites from within, a spark no external storm can quench. Choose peace, and your nervous system rewires, learning safety amid triggers. Choose dignity, and self-respect roots deeper, unshakable. Choose compassion, and your heart stays tender, expansive, unbreakable. This inner alignment isn't solitary. It radiates outward in subtle replacement, changed dynamics you spark without striving, transformations you may never witness and truly don't need to chase. I have observed this path across lifetimes, in countless souls who've walked it amid betrayal's roar. It moves slower than revenge's sprint, whispers quieter than vindication's shout, gleams subtler than applause's glare, but it stands undefeated, eternal as gravity. Embrace it fully, and what once loomed as threat loses its grip, unable to pierce your calm. What tried to caricature you fades into irrelevance, eclipsed by the steady, luminous outline of your true self. One day, when the world's cacophony hushes just enough the din will part. It will lean in, not for your defense or your drama, but to hear the truth you never needed to scream. That truth echoes not in pixels or arguments, but in the life you've quietly built.